Hello, welcome to the second day of August 2025. My name is Kurt, and this is my daily Good Life meditation, a live video exercise that I do every morning around 5:30 a.m. to remember my life objectives and principles, those which are outlined in my book, Going Alone, which you can read for free at goingalone.org. Although you can buy a copy if you want from a bookstore. I also use this time to think about the last 24 hours and how I did with the challenges and the opportunities that I met that are noteworthy, particularly the ones that I did very well with or that I did very poorly with. I align myself with my creed, namely the 8 objectives of my creed, going over one of the principles in detail, and then I prepare for the coming day. But first of all, let me say welcome to the new subscribers to the channel. I'm glad you're here. Introduction. My name is Kurt. I'm a 61-year-old American, newly retired, about 7 months into retirement. Moved here to Japan, bought this house, living here with my Japanese wife Yumiko. We have a grown daughter living up in Tokyo who's coming down to visit us today and bringing with her one of her college friends from school, an American woman who's arriving in Japan just about right now. I think she's arriving at the airport right now, and I think Emily's going to be picking her up. It's going to be a long day for the two of them. I did mention that this is a live video journal. By way of disclaimer, that means that I'm at liberty to talk about any subject that I want. Absolutely anything, to say anything that I want. And I will say things that will probably make some people uncomfortable. I talk a lot, almost every day, about preparations for dying. That is a proven, I've been doing this for years, it's been proven to make people uncomfortable. I also talk about other subjects as well, just a heads up. I want to say thank you for my subscribers, people who watch my videos, my members on YouTube, and my Patreon supporters. I really appreciate you. All right, let's get started. I do keep notes every day, and I keep careful notes about, or not careful notes, but helpful notes. Usually they're rather terse about through the day to help me to be able to do this in a reflective manner. And regarding under the heading of the last 24 hours, I have only one item, which is typically the case, just to have one. And that is accident. And I like to read exactly what I wrote down because it kind of captures the flavor of things. It helps to jog my memory back to the emotions of the state, of the moment. Not that I care so much about emotions, but emotions, remembering how I felt, helps me to, takes me back and puts me in the context of the setting, which can be helpful to remember. Accident, last, and it says in parentheses, again, -well. So if you're familiar with my channel and keep up with what I'm doing here, you may remember that coming back to Japan to live here at age 60, going into 61, hasn't been easy. It hasn't been too hard either, frankly. But I've done this before, twice before. Moved to Japan wholesale and started over. Once in my 20s, another time in my 40s, and now in my 60s. The 20s was easy physically, but very taxing mentally, very trying mentally. I couldn't withstand it. I left Japan because I couldn't take a living here. I don't talk about that very much, but that's the case. I was too immature to deal with the great difference of this country, reconcile it against my own ideas about how life and how people should live. In my 40s, I was more mature, and it was living in Japan then was like having a difficult job. Not a terrible job, but a difficult job that was taxing and required a lot of my energies to sustain myself through. So I didn't leave Japan in that case. I did wind up leaving, but I didn't leave it because I was running away from Japan. Definitely in my 20s, I was running away from Japan. In my 40s, I was leaving to find opportunity because I couldn't succeed here. And I went back to America seeking my fortune. Here now in my 60s, I have the maturity not to run away, and I don't expect Japan to be America. I got over that long, long ago. It's not even something that had to be gotten over. It was something to realize, to appreciate the many ways that Japan is better in many ways. There's a lot of things about my own country that I prefer, and there's some things about here. So I don't. It's like having dinner at a steakhouse. It doesn't mean that I exclusively like steak and that I don't want to ever have fish and chips at the fish shop. It just means that tonight it's steak. It happens to be tonight's for the rest of my life, but that's fine. Well, I should probably say that Japan is fish. Tonight's fish for the rest of my life, and that's fine. The hard part, though, this time, isn't what's going on here so much as whatever the hell's going on here, because I'm old and I'm fading fast. Now, yeah, you say, well, Kurt, for the last week you've been describing yourself as suddenly strong again, right in the face of heat and elements and hard work. Yeah, that's true, but still I'm old, and even though I've had a very good week, I'm still old. I'm getting older, and I feel it. I know it. I'm living it. Compared to the last 2 times I lived here, this is a lot easier. Well, it's a lot easier. Certainly much easier than the 20s. The 40s, yeah, because in the 40s I was wrestling with late 40s, almost an existential challenge of, how to get my daughter through college and get my wife and I safely into retirement while making, $40,000 US a year equivalent here. I wasn't making enough money to get by. That's an existential crisis. Facing down university and old age, without making enough money to cover both, right? That was a problem, which I handled by going back to America and getting a better job. So here now it's like, okay, I'm kids grown. I don't have to worry about that anymore. I'm retired. I'm safe financially for the rest of my life. Now, so those weights are no longer on me, but now I'm getting old, and my body isn't cooperating with me the way it used to. My brain isn't fast and nimble anymore like I think it used to be. My body can't keep up in so many ways, and it's so funny. It's an irony. It's like a cruel joke in some ways to suddenly find myself free and not capable. It's humbling, sobering. If I was one to feel I might even feel resentful that I spent my vital years engaged in sitting in a cube looking at a screen. But the video isn't to talk about that, and I won't talk about that. I mean, I guess I will talk about it for a second. I'm glad I did that. I'm glad I spent my life the way I did. I'm proud and happy of what I was able to do to fulfill my obligation as a father and a husband, to see my daughter through to adulthood without sending her into adulthood encumbered with debt, and off she can go, and my wife and I safely into old age without, worrying about having to make a living. And remember, I told you this is my journal. I can talk about things any way I want. I can even sound flattering, right? If it comes across as insensitive, because I know there's a lot of people that aren't in such a situation, and I do feel for you. But I'm also I'm looking at the landscape. This is my own, biography and my own catalog of life, and I'm looking at the circumstance of things. So sorry if it sounds insensitive. I'm not insensitive. I do think often about people, because I do this whole retiring in Japan journal thing. I think about it every day, right? Because I know that I'm making these dispatches from this position of great good fortune, and I'm sensitive to the fact that there's others that aren't in that situation. So that said, knowing that I'm very fortunate, it's still hard. It's hard that I can't keep up, can't do things the way I did. Anyway, that was a very long-winded roundabout way to get to the point of that I had a fender bender again yesterday. I had one about 3 months ago, backing into my sister-in-law's driveway. I hit the neighbor's fence and broke it, requiring that whole fence to be rebuilt. I hit it pretty hard. Insurance covered everything. I put a big hole in the side of our chimney. Insurance fixed all that. Cost us an extra 4,000 yen a month for probably a couple of years in our insurance premiums. It was very humbling, and I thought it was very eye-opening because ever since then, I've been very careful. I back up like an old man. I'm very careful. I drive like an old man. I'm very careful. I've heightened my alertness. If you've heard me talk about in these videos about driving, you'll know that now when I'm driving, I don't talk to people. I don't listen to my own music. I listen to Japanese radio. Why do I listen to Japanese radio? Well, one, it's good to listen to Japanese radio. It's, the atmosphere. But the other thing is that hearing the foreign voice over the radio and the foreign music reminds me constantly that I'm not home. I'm not back in the United States, and it keeps me vigilant. And I drive very carefully and cautiously. I don't speed. I'm very careful backing up. Constantly. This is how I operate. Yesterday, I had another accident, another fender bender, doing the exact same thing I did the last time, backing into my sister-in-law's house driveway, but I didn't hit the fence. I was just about like a half second away from a full stop, and I hit a little storage locker that's standalone, and I hit it so slowly that it was boom, and it kind of just pushed. The storage locker isn't hard to fix to the ground. It sits on a couple of bricks, and it just kind of pushed it back a little bit. Storage locker wasn't damaged. I just had to lift it up a little bit and move it over. Smallest of little scrapes on the car. Literally the type of thing that I think will buff out. Not a big deal at all. But it is a big deal. Because in the process of backing up, I could not possibly have been more vigilant. Dad was sitting beside me. We had taken Dad out for lunch. Yumiko was sitting behind me. I was backing up. There's a backup camera, and I don't use that. I only use that to get a general recognizance of things. And then I use all the mirrors because I'm a driving instructor. I teach my students to use the mirrors, look over your shoulder, go slowly, only use the backup camera if you want to get an assessment, but don't sit there and stare at the camera. I literally had the door. I had done that. I had the door open. And I was looking out the door, and the locker I was looking at the friggin' locker, and I still hit it. What do they say about eyes wide shut? Now, sure, I know that I have this cataract in my left eye, and I think that might be part of it. And I'm having surgery this month to get it fixed. And I'm having my next in about 5 days. I'm going to the Japan's equivalent of the Department of Motor Vehicles to hopefully get my license reissued, and I will take an eye test. So we'll see if I pass. I did see a doctor about the cataract, and I did ask the doctor. They did the whole eye test, and I said, "Can I drive? Right? Is this cataract bad enough?" And they said, "Your cataract isn't so bad that you can't drive." So they gave me a green light to drive. So I'm okay with that. So I don't think it's the cataract, and I don't think it's bad luck. I think it's me. I think, you know how when we're driving sometimes, those of us that drive, and we sometimes see old people. And my dad once, I don't talk about my father very much. He was a very wise man. He was definitely a tortured man as well. But I remember him saying something that stuck in my head forever. We were driving, I was a kid, and I was in the back seat of the car, and my brother was beside me, and my mom was there. And we were driving behind, this is back in the 70s, big old cars back then. And we were driving behind like big old Oldsmobile or something in front of us, and it had a kind of a blue-haired grandma in the passenger seat, and an old man, small old man with his head barely picking up in the seat. And my mom had said something like, they're driving so damn slow. And my dad said something that stuck in my head forever. He said, yeah, they may be driving slow. He said, but if that's as fast as they can drive safely, then I would rather not have them drive any faster than they can safely drive. Stuck in my head, one of those little, gong ringing through the ages. I thought that was such a wise observation to say, yeah, they may be driving too slow for you, young adult, observing them with your full capacity around you. But they're an old person. Capacities are diminished. They're driving just as fast as they safely can. We don't want them driving any faster than that. Now, of course, you get to the point where you're driving so damn slow that you're a hazard to yourself and the others around you, and you got to learn when to call it quits. My father-in-law had that accident about 5 months ago. He had an accident himself, and at the cusp of 90, decided on his own to give up his license. Went down to the DMV, said, handed it in, the Japanese equivalent of the DMV. Handed it in, said, I'm done. Sold the car, finished. Good for him. Kudos to him. Smart man. Another wise man. Another wise move. Wise observation from my dad. Wise moves from my father-in-law. Now, all of this is by way to say, so you're saying, Kurt, why are you telling us all this stuff? Because this video, I say often, almost daily, is not story time. This is not for me to tell you about what happened throughout the day. That's not why I do this. The reason that I do this is that I want to examine exceptional incidents from the last 24 hours to see how I handled them relative to my values. So let's get into that. Yesterday's fender bender impacted me very greatly. I was very emotional. It was like, okay, I mean, this is going to sound a little bit crude, but it's just about spot on. Imagine you're a man, if you're a woman, stretch your imagination, and you suffer from impotence, and you can't get it up anymore. And you have some procedure that's going to solve that problem. I don't know if such a procedure exists. Anyway, you're ready to not be impotent anymore, and you have your first event where you can have a chance to perform, and it doesn't work. Imagine the disappointment of discovering that that was the case, right? Now, my father, that did happen to him, and it devastated him. Now, I'm the kind of guy that I could give it or take it. I was like, whatever, I've had enough of that, So impotence wouldn't bother me too much, if and when that happens. But it does bother a lot of people. And I can understand, because I saw it in my father, when that happened to him and how much it devastated him. Substituted impotence was driving carefully. I had that one accident, and I put into place measures to make sure that doesn't happen again, and which I just told you about those measures: driving carefully, listening to Japanese music, not talking to anybody when I'm driving, to make sure I don't have an accident again. And then I did it again. It's like, I can't get it up again. I was so disappointed in the moment. I was so emotional in the moment. I mean, it was overwhelming. I haven't had that kind of a rise of emotion overwhelm me in years. Except maybe for when I was at work, when my boss would drive me crazy and send me to the hospital. It wasn't that bad. But I used #Temperance to quell it down to the best of my ability. Now, normally, I feel the emotions literally, this is literally how it feels. It rises like this. You feel it like a tightening in the gut, and the emotion starts to rise. And when I was a young man, I couldn't control it, and it would spew out. That's what I call in the book, the Feast of Offal. When it spews out. Now, that would have been, an example of that would have been, and this probably would have happened in my 30s. If that had happened yet, what happened yesterday in my 30s, and I banked into it again, you would have heard me, Dad and my wife would have heard me say, God damn, fuck, God, I can't believe I just did that again, right? That would have been the Feast of Offal emerging, right? Lacking the self-control to manage my emotions. It didn't happen, but it did get higher than here. Usually I can push those things, I can see it coming, I can push it down right about here. It literally feels like it's right here, and if it gets to here, it comes out. Yesterday it got about here. I mean, it was close. I got real quiet, real sullen, because I clamped everything down. It was like a submarine going down to depth, right? Seal all hatches, blow the ballast. We're going dive. I sealed all the hatches. I got out of the car, parked the car, I got out of the car, I went over, I assessed the damage, I lifted that little locker up, I put it into place, I took care of Dad, made sure Dad got into the house okay, and we got in the car, and we got in the car, we were going to go off to do something. Yumiko, my wife, is very smart. She's very aware of everything. She knows everything that's going on. She also knows I'm controlling it. She said, "Are you okay?" I said, "I'm very emotional right now. I need a little time to calm down." She said, "Why don't we do our outing later in the day?" I said, "I agree. That's a good idea." We drove home. Okay, this is now hashtag reason. I used hashtag temperance to control my emotions to avoid the hashtag Feast of Offal. I then used hashtag social principle to interact with my people around me. My dad, get dad into the house safely. Talk to my wife, who she engaged me. I was going to drive off to Daiso, bad idea. We were headed off to the 100 Yen store. And she intervened and said, "Why don't, are you okay?" And then we agreed no, and that's hashtag social. And as soon as we got back, I used hashtag reason to come up with a plan. As I drove back, I came up with hashtag reason, a plan, which is I'm going to come up here to my room with my dog, lock myself away for as long as it takes for the emotion to burn off. And then we'll carry on with the day. Came up here, I laid there on the sofa and with a fan blowing, and I breathed carefully, and I let my mind go, and the emotion eventually kind of just faded away, mostly. And literally after an hour, I told Miko, I said, it'll be about an hour and we can go do it again. After an hour, I came down and we went out and did our thing. And for the most part, and if you watch yesterday's Retiring in Japan episode, you'll see this unfold, although you won't see the emotions. I brush upon it, I describe it a little bit, but for the most part, after that incident occurred, there's not very many clips because I wasn't in a mood to make videos. But I did lift the camera a few times to report what happened and to report on my progress. And we carried on throughout the day. I wouldn't say our afternoon shopping was fun for either of us because I was clearly, out of sorts, but I wasn't emotional. I wasn't being unreasonable or unkind. I was sullen. That's what I was. I was sullen. Rightfully so. I was upset, right? I wouldn't say rightfully so if I had exploded and made a scene, but I didn't explode and made a scene. I took care of the situation. I assessed the thing. I'm very proud of the fact that I was of enough frame of mind, because it's very hot, to make sure that Dad got into the house, the door closed, he's safe in there with the air conditioner before we move on. So I had presence of mind to look after my responsibilities in spite of all this. The day unfolded, and now it got a little bad in the evening. Something happened in the evening that really taxed me, and I'm not really going to fault myself for this. I'm not faulting anybody else. I'm just going to say it was a circumstance relative to the universe at large. Now, here's the thing. I get up at 4 a.m. every morning, and I go to sleep about 8:30 every night. Those are those non-negotiable. That is just the way it is. And at 4 a.m. I'm up. It doesn't matter. I can't sleep in if I wanted to. I'm finished. I just wake up. I start the day. At 8:30, I'm going to bed. I don't care what's going on. Very, very few rare circumstances I can break that routine. I can break it if I'm out and about a little bit. If I'm here at the house, forget about it. Grandpa's going to bed. I was literally, it was like 8:15. I was literally naked getting into the bath when my phone rang, and it was my sister-in-law. And she knows this about me, and I'm not blaming her. Okay? It's my wife's birthday on Monday, and she and her brother wanted to come by and surprise Yumiko with a birthday gift. Now, these kind of visits you don't pop in and you don't pop out. These are long, this is a Japanese thing, these are long, especially given family, 2-hour long affairs, and they weren't going to be there until like 9 o'clock. And they wanted me to facilitate this, and Yoko thought it would be a great idea for me to record some video clips of it too. Understandable, I'm the videographer, right? I don't know, maybe I don't expect Yoko to understand my biochemistry, but I'm done, right? I was done. I agreed. I'd already had a really hard day. I was ready for bed. I did my best, and my best was hardly good enough. I was a trooper. Now, Rudy, my dog, part of the reason I spent a lot of time up here is that Rudy's a very difficult dog. He had a very difficult life, before we got him. He's attached to me. He doesn't want anything to do with anybody else. Any strangers come into the house, Ollie's like this too a little bit. Ollie had a difficult life too. They'll go after them. They're used to seeing Yoko around. They're not used to seeing Takeshi, the brother-in-law, around. They showed up. The dogs went crazy. The air conditioner downstairs stopped working about an hour before that. It was a 3 friggin' ring circus. The dogs going nuts. Now, and the family doing their paradigm Japanese social thing, the exchanges, beginning a 2-hour event. I did my best. I sat there. They brought coffee. I drank my coffee. I managed Rudy, who was going nuts, sitting next to me. So, again, I'm not telling you this to have story time. I'm telling you this to relate how I dealt with it. Because this is my video. This is my journal of how I'm handling my life. I handled it pretty good. I didn't handle it very well. I mean, I wasn't very social. I wasn't very engaging. I hardly was there. But I didn't make a scene. I did my part. And then as soon as I felt like I'd done it enough, I took my little dog and I went out and I took a bath and I went to bed. Would that evening have gone better if I hadn't backed into the thing earlier in the morning? I think so. I would have been on better terms. Would it have gone well? No, it wouldn't. There's not a chance. The only way that event could have gone well is if they had called up and said, "We've got a gift for you, Miko. Why don't we all meet at Starbucks down the street and have the gift?" And then when Miko and I could have left the dogs here, gone down there. Like I said, I do okay if you break me out of the house. I can stay up until 11 o'clock pretty good, but not at home. But none of that happened. So, what's one of the other principles? Life will not go well, right? Life's not going to go well. It certainly wasn't the horror show, but it wasn't well. I handled it well. I would give myself, even though I had a very difficult day yesterday, I would give myself 5 stars, 5 or maybe 4 stars. 5, I think, is earned. I want to say 4 because I wasn't my normal gregarious self, but I mean, under the circumstances, right? I think I did pretty good. All right, let's go over the creed. My creed consists of 8 objectives: to be always ready to die. See, I told you I talk about death. To make good and effective use of time. To develop and maintain good and sound life principles. To cultivate good emotional reactions. To perform good actions relative to my creed. To recognize my true limits and true opportunities. To do just one thing at a time and do that thing slowly and deliberately and carefully. And to keep my balance. Let's read from the book. We're going to read the principle titled "The Best Seat in the House," which immediately follows yesterday's reading of, what was it that I talked about yesterday? Oh, yesterday we did agency and the great indifference. Today, the best seat in the house. A pretty short one. And there's a quote from St. Paul. And remember, it's a very strange title, "The Best Seat in the House." I have learned, in whatever state I am, therewithin to be content. Therewith to be content. I have learned, in whatever state I am, let me try again. St. Paul. I have learned, in whatever state I am, therewith to be content. The best seat in the house suggests that whatever circumstance we're in is, in fact, the best seat we can hope for at any particular time, or at least it's a perspective to say, to not covet the perspective and the vantage of others necessarily. This place and time where I am now will suffice. I will have peace where and who I am at this time, and doing whatever engages my necessity and motive and the pursuit of virtue. Meanwhile, I will also strive towards better ends for myself and others, not as a replacement of my current circumstances and work, but rather as a natural improvement upon these. So I won't be desirous of other circumstances. I will make the best use of the circumstance that I am in for the better achievement of the ends of my own life and the worthwhile, the virtuous ends of others. Okay, as for today, it's Saturday. I have some work to do. I'm going to list some products. Oh, by the way, my business is doing very well. It was certainly the busiest week yet. And I've expanded my eBay store to include merchandise, which is coming out along really well. If you check my eBay store, just look for softypapa as the seller's name there. I now have three are showing, but I have 4 categories that I created for savory snacks, sweets, houseware staples, and there's another one, 4. And I begin to cluster household wares, merchandise items there. And I think this is gonna go in a good place. And I have set up workflows in my day to create listings to populate those. And boy, I'm really pleased with how this is turning out. And I'm really pleased with the fact that even though I left my business behind 23 years ago, the skills that I developed and the experience that I gained back then has been evergreen. And I seem to be carrying it forward now. I don't have to relearn the lessons that I learned so difficultly the first time around. In addition, Emily's going to be here with her friend, like I said. She said she won't be here until 6 p.m., so I'm probably a little later than that, which means that I'm going to have to drive down to Shizuoka Station to pick them up. So I probably need to fortify myself and prepare myself. It might be, you know what, it's going to be a night. You know what, I don't want a day like yesterday because last night, I can't avoid it, right? Emily's bringing a stranger into the house. Rudy's not going to like that. Ollie's not going to like that. It's going to happen later in the evening. I'm going to have to, I've got a good heads up here. I'm going to have to prepare myself. One way I can prepare myself is to excuse myself and to simply tell my wife and daughter and say, hey, guys, I'm glad you're here. It's 8:30. Going to bed. And excuse myself. That's probably the reasonable thing to do because we'll have the rest of the weekend to do things together. It is, however, a very big festival weekend. My favorite festival in Japan is the Minato Matsuri, the Harbor Festival. It started last night and it will run through Sunday. I really hope that we can take Crystal, the young woman that's coming with Emily, to see it. I think she'll enjoy it. I don't know that we can see it tonight because, they're just arriving, but maybe tomorrow night. All right, let's read comments before we wrap it up here. Hi, Robert. Jim Jam Birds. Hey, it's good to see you back, Jim Jam Birds. Good morning, Kurt. 23C and 57% humidity here in Vancouver today. Feeling like we're in the sweet spot right now. 23 is green and 57. Oh my gosh, it's pure heaven. I forgot to do a temperature humidity check of myself when I started, but right now, about 6 o'clock in the morning, it is 28 degrees and 75% humidity. Yesterday so it's already in the red zone in both capacities. Yesterday was out of this world in terms of humidity and temperature. It seemed like it was the hardest day yet, but I held up pretty good in spite of all of that. Good to hear from you, Jim Jam Birds. Hi, Tim. Good morning. Hitting 60 was definitely a turning point. It's the first time in my life that I'm actually starting to feel old. Turning 40 and then 50 never bothered me, but now 60, yeah. 40 and 50 came and went like an expected storm that wasn't so bad. But 60, there's definitely some weather here. Robert says, hi, Jim Jam Bird. Currently 26 and 28 in humidity in Napanee, Ontario. Nice. 26 and 20, so it's a little warm and very low humidity. Tim says, starting to think about aging more. Had another person in my life contact me yesterday to let me know that that health has really taken a turn. Their contemporaries of my age. It's very sobering to hear. But I talk about it every damn day, so it shouldn't take me by surprise. I guess I'm putting on airs, isn't that terrible? But I think about it every day. But I don't think about it in a depressing way. It's thinking about it in like a reminding way, a mindful way. Robert says hi to Tim. Tim says hi to Robert. Tim says weather check here in the UK at 9:46 p.m. 15.4 C, 62% humidity. 15.4 and 62, nice humidity, pretty nice warmth. 15.4 and 62. 16.4 and 62. So you're not, I don't think you quite have Jim Jam Bird's beat. I think he's got the heaven weather today. Jim Jim Bird says hi to everybody. Erica, hi Erica. Hi Kurt, sorry to hear about the car accident, but super glad everyone is fine. Thank you, I appreciate that. Robert says hi to Erica. Erica says hi everyone. Beautiful day here in Pennsylvania. It's topping out at 75 degrees. Just glorious weather. Beautiful, just gorgeous weather. Erica says hi to Robert. Jim Jim Bird says, Kurt, we learned how to fly. We learned about target fixation and how to manage that mentally. I wonder if that's something affecting your driving. Possibly. I mean, well, I'm trying to put pieces together. I imagine target fixation means when you're overly focused on one thing. I don't know. I haven't studied flying to the extent that you're not, being cognizant of what else is around you. Jim Jam Birds, if I could, offer my 2 cents about what I think is happening, it's like my perception is diminished. My ability to take it all in. And I think this is why so many old people drive slowly. When I was a younger driver, I could, and I would imagine this would apply to pilots as well. You kind of like have a 360 awareness. That 360 awareness has kind of gone away. Like I secure, because I'm a driving instructor, so I would teach my students to scan, to be aware, to observe 2 signals ahead, what's going on, to think and plan ahead, and to be cognizant of checking the mirrors every now and then, to be cognizant of what's happening all around. It's like I can check the mirror, and then a half a microsecond later, I forget what I saw. And I think that's what's going on, is that, I'm seeing what's going on around me, but as I continue to, maybe the opposite of target fixation, maybe it's as I'm continuing on to the next target, I just can't remember what the hell I was in the last target, right? I'd love to hear if, Tim, if you've got anything to weigh in on this, because I think it's kind of a awareness, a lack of awareness of the 360, of the bigger picture, which would explain why old people drive slowly, because they keep getting surprised by what's going on around them. And I'm wondering, Jim Jam Birds, are you the same person, the same pilot who wrote to me that's going to be sending me a copy of Going Alone to sign? I wonder if that's you. Because I have someone that wrote to me that's getting their pilot's license, and they wanted me to sign a copy of Going Alone. Erica says, I'm 55 and darn proud to have made it this far. Congratulations on getting here. Let's see how far we can take it. Within good health. I was thinking about that yesterday. Learning to go there. Tim says, sorry about the Jimmy Kurt. Reminds me of being up a ladder and the times I said I must be careful, and still ended up forgetting and stepping back halfway up. It just happened. Yeah. It's like even though I'm trying so hard to be aware of the moment, it still happens. Thoughts, ideas, and what? Whoa, I haven't seen your name here in a long time. You're a name from the way back machine. I'm working out while watching. It's good to see you again. 2 p.m. California time. And Robert says hi to thoughts, ideas, and what? There's some names that I remember from the softypapa 1.0 days, and Robert is one. Thoughts, ideas, and what is another? Evelyn says hi to everyone. Hey, Evelyn. Robert says hi to Evelyn. Erica says hi to Evelyn. Tim says, the one thing I have found getting older is those routines get ever more ingrained. Sometimes find there's nothing worse if they get interrupted. It almost puts you out of sorts. Yeah, it really does, right? I can see how, and maybe we get like this when we're old because we don't have the capacity or the interest to diverge. Evelyn says, a few months ago I climbed a ladder from a family member so I could change light bulbs in my apartment instead of calling the super digger. Then I thought about it carefully. I realized that at my age, it's really not a good idea to be climbing up high ladders. I agree. Robert says, Kurt, something my father's father often said to me, he had no idea he would live so long. He left at 98. Wait a minute. I feel like I missed something there. Maybe you're building up to say something, Robert. Interesting, yes, that's me. Oh, it is you. Oh, okay, great. Hope you don't mind I let the cat out of the bag. That was you. let me know as soon as you get the book, and I'll send you my address, and you can send it over, and I will illustrate it. What I'll do is I'll sign it for you. And Evelyn has a copy like this. Evelyn's got a copy that's been signed, and then I illustrate the inside with, scene from Going Alone and maybe some of the interior pages. So I'm going to do to your book Jim Jam Birds like I did to Evelyn's book. I think, Evelyn, you have one of the very first ones that I ever did that for. There's probably a dozen books out there that I've done that, customized like that. Jim Jam Bird says, the book is here. I just started reading it. Love it so far. Well, I'm glad to hear that. Thank you for that. Whenever you're ready, just let me know. I'll send you my address, and we'll get all that started. I've got the pen and the colors all ready to go. Well, I've reached the bottom of the comments. I'm sorry if I missed something from you, Robert. You were going to say something your dad's dad said. I don't think I saw that. And Evelyn got sand. Yeah, that's right. I think you're the only person that got sand. The reason Evelyn got sand was I used to use Evelyn's book. If you see some of my old videos from the beach at Huntington Beach, like there's one little clip of me running into the sand, because every day I would run it. Oh, actually I did it every day. Almost every day I would run into the sand. I forgot about that. And I would place the camera, and it would capture me running and diving into the water. And every now and then I would place a copy of Going Alone in front of the camera, and you could see it there. That's Evelyn's copy. And it would collect sand in the book. And then when I went to send Evelyn a copy of the book and I illustrated it, that was the only copy that I had, so I illustrated it. And so she got the illustration and the sand. And which Evelyn being of a positive mind, a half full kind of woman that you are, she saw that as a positive. And I guess in the end it is, right? I mean, you've got the authentic sand copy of Going Alone. All right, everybody. Well, I don't know if it's coming through, but I'm feeling good, but I'm definitely weak today. Yesterday's event softened me up a little bit. I don't feel quite the same, but I feel I feel happy. This week was a really good work. I'm really glad that I found a way to occupy my mind. And by the way, just because I keep going on and I'm writing and talking every day about work, I'm not saying that work is what retired people should do, that people shouldn't retire. I'm saying that I'm not ready to give up work yet. I haven't found my way to the other side. And I'm really glad for people that have found their way to the other side. My wife has definitely found her way to the other side. I think she's lucky because Japan provides so many pathways, easier pathways. There's hard pathways being Japanese too. But she abides the Japanese standards, and Yumiko's like, she's like got this Japanese handbook in her head that answers every question. I mean, she's so lucky. She's like, okay, what do you do in this situation? You just turn to the Japanese handbook in your head, and it gives all the answers. She once told me, she said, my religion, Kurt, is being Japanese. It answers every question. For some people, for some Japanese, those answers are not the answers they want, and that they live a very hard life. But for people that, like my wife, that can abide the Japanese standards, they're very lucky. She's settled into retirement just fine. I haven't done that yet. I'm turning back to work. By doing that and by talking about it every day, I'm not saying that that other retirees should do the same. Not at all. In fact, I'm kind of envious of those that have found their way to peace without work. I hope to get there too. I'll sign off for now. I got about 10 minutes before I can get to radio exercise. Do I really want to do it this morning? Yeah, I do. I'll do it. Thank you, Robert. I appreciate your night messages. I appreciate you showing up almost every day, Robert, and so many of you who do. I appreciate those that just show up once in a while. I wish you all the best, everybody. Jim Jambirds, thank you. Have a great day. I'm rooting for you in your career. I was telling my wife about you and your upcoming career. I'm very, very excited for you. Have a great day. You as well, Tim. Be safe and not too safe, everybody. Bye-bye.